Welcome to the Explainer. So, I was just looking over the blueprints for what's happening in tech right now. And let me tell you, we're not just looking at a software update here. And it's definitely not just some trendy new app. The current AI supercycle we're in is quite literally the largest physical infrastructure project in human history. Today, we're exploring the architecture of a trillion-dollar dynamo that is fundamentally changing how we generate intelligence.
But before we break ground on this massive project, let's just quickly peek at the blueprints. We'll trace the path from physical atoms to digital tokens, map out the 5-layer AI cake, explore the invisible agentic economy, unpack something called the Jevons paradox, and finally, look at how all of this is repricing the global workforce.
All right, let's dive right into Section 1, Atoms to Digital Tokens, the new heavy industry.
To really wrap our heads around this, we've got to completely shatter our current mental model of AI. Zoom way out from that clean, quiet little chat window in your web browser. NVIDIA CEO Jensen Huang refers to what we're building right now as the AI factory. See, this isn't traditional software coding where developers are just typing away on laptops in a coffee shop. This is the literal manufacturing of intelligence at a gigawatt scale. We're talking about massive, incredibly complex physical facilities designed for one specific purpose: to take raw energy and synthesize it into digital reasoning.
And just look at the sheer scale of the capital involved here. Building just 1 gigawatt AI factory costs in the neighborhood of $50 billion. That is an astronomical upfront physical cost. But here's the kicker, the reason why everyone is rushing in. That single $50 billion factory can generate an estimated $300 to $400 billion in intelligence output. The return on investment is driving a gold rush unlike anything we've seen since the Industrial Revolution.
So, the absolutely crucial point here is understanding the actual thermodynamic cycle powering this dynamo. It literally starts with atoms. Burning fuel or capturing sustainable energy to generate power. Those atoms create electrons. Then, those electrons are pumped into massive data centers, specifically into these 2-ton server racks holding incredibly dense computer chips. And what spits out the other side? Numbers. Digital tokens. We are literally converting physical matter and energy directly into a brand new form of digital intelligence.
Moving on to Section 2, the 5-layer AI cake. This is basically our master schematic. So how is this new industry actually organized to support that cycle? Well, the very first bottleneck, and honestly the greatest investment opportunity we've seen in generations, isn't code at all. It's raw energy. It's the modern power grid. You can't build a $50 billion cognitive factory if you can't plug it in, right? The foundation of this entire economy relies entirely on power systems, which is exactly why capital is flooding into energy generation on a scale we haven't seen in a century.
And this perfectly brings us to what Jensen Huang and macro investor Raoul Pal call the 5-layer cake. Capital flows straight upward through this structure. It starts at the base with energy. The second layer is chips, the actual physical processors. The third layer is infrastructure, so things like the land, the concrete shells, the massive cooling systems. The fourth layer is the models, that foundational AI logic like OpenAI or Anthropic. And finally, the fifth layer, sitting at the very top, is applications, the software and agents that end users like you and me actually interact with.
This quote right here brilliantly illustrates the sheer magnitude of what we're discussing. Jensen Huang noted that we are currently about $1 trillion into this build-out, but he estimates this is going to become a $20 trillion a year ecosystem. Why? Because as he says, you just got to ask yourself, how important is intelligence? Every single industry, every scientific field, every business on Earth desperately needs it.
All right, Section 3, the invisible agentic economy. Let's take a look at life on the top floor.
Up on that top floor, we find the enterprise reality. I absolutely love this data from Deloitte because it cuts right through the hype and shows us what's actually happening on the ground today. Look at the time to first value. Businesses are actively spending tens of thousands of dollars to pilot these AI agents, things like Salesforce Agentforce or Microsoft Copilot, and they are seeing real, tangible value in roughly 30 days. And check out those pilot to production rates. They're massively successful, with 60 to 70% of these pilots moving directly into full-scale production.
So what does this actually look like for the everyday human worker? In the Sovereign Tech Audit, they call this the daily forklift. Just think about it. In the same way a physical forklift allows a single warehouse worker to move huge pallets of heavy goods, AI is systematically offloading our routine cognitive tasks. It's totally collapsing the unit cost of generating basic content, analyzing data, and writing boilerplate code.
Which naturally leads us to Section 4, the Jevons paradox. Why cheaper intelligence actually creates more demand. We really need to address the elephant in the room here. If an AI cognitive forklift is doing all this routine work, do human workers just disappear from the blueprint? Enter the Jevons paradox. Back in the 19th century, an economist named William Stanley Jevons noticed something super counterintuitive. As steam engines became more efficient, people thought coal consumption would naturally drop. Instead, because it was cheaper and more efficient, people found way more uses for steam power and coal consumption absolutely skyrocketed. We are seeing this exact same paradox pivot from physical coal right over to human cognition and intelligence.
Economists call this the rebound effect. Cheaper digital intelligence doesn't destroy the human workload. It expands the scope of what is actually possible. When the cost of routine execution drops to near zero, it unlocks massive latent demand for projects that were previously just way too expensive. Think about translating your company's entire asset library into 20 minor languages, or running incredibly deep niche market research that you previously just didn't have the budget or manpower to even attempt.
And the productivity data absolutely backs this up. According to forecasting by Bain, organizations aren't just saving a few bucks. Their productivity is actively compounding. We're looking at a jump from a 7 to 9% net gain in 2026 all the way to a 14 to 19% net gain by 2027. But importantly, this gap is widening specifically for the organizations that are actively investing in the infrastructure to govern and evaluate these agents rather than the ones just chasing the newest, flashiest chatbot.
Finally, Section 5, repricing the global workforce and human value shifts.
So, what does this all mean for the human operators managing the building? Well, according to recent economic data from the National Bureau of Economic Research, the workforce isn't necessarily shrinking overall, but it is undergoing a massive internal shift. It's repricing the entire global economy away from those older, labor-heavy models. There is a direct, incredibly sharp contrast happening right now. The demand for routine clerical work is declining fast as those tasks get scooped up by our cognitive forklifts. However, there is a rapidly rising task share for skilled technical roles. The new premium is on human judgment, strategy, and our ability to orchestrate these AI systems.
And what's truly amazing is how democratized this is becoming. Look at how small firms are projected to spend their AI budgets in 2026. They aren't spending $50 billion to build their own gigawatt factories. A massive 64% of their spending is just on operations and subscriptions. They are renting access to this trillion-dollar infrastructure, which allows a small business to compete on a scale that was entirely unimaginable just 5 years ago. I really want to anchor today's explainer with this vital quote because it hits the nail right on the head. The companies that win with AI won't be the ones that do the same work with fewer people. They'll be the ones that use AI to expand their scope. Efficiency, saving time and cutting basic costs, is just the baseline. The true end goal of the AI factory is capacity. It's about entering new markets, serving your customers more deeply, and creating products that literally weren't viable before. So, I want to leave you with this provocative question to chew on. As the cost of routine execution plummets to absolute zero, how are you going to deploy your uniquely human judgment within this massive, new 5-layer architecture? The blueprint is drawn, the factory is being built right now, and your place in the largest infrastructure project in human history is entirely up to you. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and I really hope this gave you a powerful new lens to view the intelligence age.